Yes, good evening. This is Harlem Network News, and I am Terri Wisdom, your host for the evening. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News is a media platform, and it's been 4 years. I used to say new media platform, but it's a media platform. And we started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We consider ourselves an essential service. We address Harlem and Harlems of the world. So it's truly a powerful thing that has occurred here at Harlem Network News. As everyone knows, we are making history in the sense that we have our VP candidate for president, Kamala Harris, who is the first uh, African American, Asian American woman for president, and she has chosen her vice presidential candidate in the person of Tim Walsh. So it's just an exciting time, and it's very exciting for me at Harlem Network News because I have the honor of having a press credential. So I will be going to the convention, and I will be reporting to Harlem and Harlems of the world what's going on, but I will also be bringing our concerns and issues to that convention. So on that note, this evening, I have with you, and we're pre-recorded, but it's going to go on out in the evening. We have some community members with us who helped to put together an amazing event, and I'll let them talk about it. I was running behind, so I didn't get into the whole event, so I'm going to have them share, but I believe it was New York for Kamala and Tim Walz, and it happened right here in Harlem and was called Washington Heights or Hamilton Heights. We got a lot of names, Sugar Hill, all of that, but it happened last evening. So we have with us Shanna Harmongoff, who is a community activist. We have Joshua Clennon with us, who does a lot of work with affordable housing. He is a father and a husband right here in Harlem. And we also have with us Corey Ortega, who is one of our district leaders. So anyone who would like to start, I've kind of introed you, but anything that I didn't say, you're free to say it. And just tell us what happened last night. What happened? What kind of event happened? And, what was the frequency? Who would like to
Yeah,
start?
you guys start, man. Kick it off. Yeah.
Okay.
Next gen.
Okay, go ahead, Joshua. And then we'll go to Shauna, and then we'll come to you, Corey. Thank you. Okay, unmute, Joshua, unmute.
Yes, so
Okay,
last night was an incredible gathering of leaders across our city and state, elected officials, our governor and our mayor of New York City, labor unions, UFT, HTC, 32BJ, and tons of advocates and community members, rank and file members of our Democratic Party, really coming to unite and show unity for the Harris and Walz campaign. We know that New York is not a battleground state, and our nominees, they're not going to spend as much time here as they will be in battleground states. But we wanted to create some excitement and energy prior to the Democratic National Convention to really show that we as the Democratic Party in New York are fully united behind this ticket, and we're committed to making sure that we defeat Donald Trump in the November general election.
okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, Josh. Shauna, maybe you can give us a little breakdown about the event, how the event happened, who was there, you know, just what the flow was, how many people were there, what was going on.
Okay, well, just kind of what Joshua said. You had the mayor, you had the governor, you had city council speaker Adams there. So you had Gail Brewer there. You had a host of elected officials. I don't want to start calling too many names just in case I forget
Okay.
some
Right,
people.
right.
But not only
Our
you also
congressman,
had district leaders. Who? What did you
our
say, Joshua?
congressman, our
Oh,
congressman.
we
Okay.
cannot forget about our wonderful Congressman Adriano SYI, who was also a part of the organization and co-host of this wonderful event,
Mhm.
Harlem for the Heights, which is an organization who hosted. And Corey will tell you more about that. But we had a
Okay,
lot of
thank you.
elected officials. We also had a lot of district leaders there. We had community people there to show their support for our VP as she eventually becomes president, because that's what we're hoping for. Ultimately, what we want to see is we want to see people register to vote, but not only registering to vote, but we want to actually see those people getting out to vote, because we're seeing people register, but now they're not motivated to vote. And so we're trying to motivate people. So this was one of the reasons what the rally was for, was to just get people motivated to go out and vote and spread the word. So this was just one of the many things that Corey, who's really the organizer of this event, is trying to, bring out to the community and put forth other events so the community can be more involved.
Okay, well, thank you, Shanna. And Corey, if you would just share with us, how did the event come about? Obviously, we're all dealing in rapid time.
Mhm.
I mean, with the nomination of VP Kamala Harris and the choosing of the VP, I mean, we're all dealing in rapid time, which I love. I'm a news media person, so I get it. we
Yeah.
you get the footage at 3 and we put it on at 5. So that's what we're having to do right now. So if you would just share a little bit about the planning and how you put it together, why you put it together.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
And thank you for having us and having me. Basically, this event was planned before, but not for Kamala Harris or Tim Walz. This was going to be like a gathering for our Democratic club. And as you said, when Biden graciously made sure that we would, win this election by passing the torch to Kamala Harris, we were all excited. Yourself, everyone here. And that's when I reached out to the congressman. I said, hey, listen, I'm already doing this and at a location. It was all planned out. What do you say we team up together on this and turn it into a Harris Walz 2024? Just the old school. See, I'm born and raised in Harlem Hospital
Okay, I
in
got you.
Hamilton Heights. And, I started my career, in Central Harlem. So they taught me a lot. Retail politics is real. And it's sometimes the only way people get a hold of news, right? In our community.
It's a
And
drum beat. It's a drum beat.
in our community,
And a
we got
voice.
we got a digital divide. Not everyone's on social media. So old school, your neighbor told you there was something going on. They saw something. They saw the mayor and the governor. It motivates the Democratic Party, and in this case, the general, all voters in Harlem, Washington Heights, and the rest of New York with our citywide partners like Kings County Democrats, Queens County Democrats, and Richmond County Democrats. So that's how it started. And then I started reaching out to different elected officials, and we had enough folk confirm. And the great thing, the delegates really double as New York State elected officials. So that saved us some time. And once we got to critical mass, then we reached out to Speaker Adams, right? We work from the ground up. You go
Okay.
party leaders, district leaders, city council members, assembly members. We had the federal, thank God, from jump. And then we went, citywide. And then when we were ready, to announce it, we had one venue, then we had a lot of people sign up to the flyer. We switched the venue, so that's number two. That's number one.
Okay.
Then the mayor, I think the mayor reached out to us, or the congressman reached out to the mayor, and he signed on. And then
Okay.
we put that out, and like, oh my God, we sold out that day,
Okay.
and it went to the waiting list. So we were like happy. I'm like, oh, the waiting list, awesome. And we switched the venue again because of the mayor, and we knew that would bring
Wow.
a citywide level of validation to the event. And then when the
Okay.
governor reached out,
Mhm.
we had to change the venue yet again to Unity Hall. And then we had Max. We totally blew the waiting list, and it was
Okay.
sold out at that point. And then, you know, what you have is a very successful event. If the purpose of the event was to motivate the base, yeah, we did that.
The
If we had
base is
people and
motivated.
party
Great.
leaders that are going to go back to their district and say, hey, did you turn on New York 1, Channel 7, any channel recorded, and they gave us a wonderful shout out for the party. We accomplished that. Did we draw even more attention because of it? You know, it was tied to Harrist, although she was not there, right?
Okay.
Tim Walz was not there. It was never supposed to be for
Mhm.
them to appear. It was an old school
Mhm.
rally, and look at the attention that we
Okay.
were able to, as you said, drum up.
Right. Yes. And I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and we're talking about and what was it a kickoff rally or reception for
God, the title changed so many
okay.
times internally. The final
So
title,
okay.
let me see. I gotta look at the flyer.
Okay.
It was
I think everybody just called it the Harlem Rally for Harrist and Walz.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what became the name.
Okay.
Right. But I think
Okay.
yeah.
we blasted it out as the New York City kickoff to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was the
Okay.
when the mayor signed on. That's what it became. Yeah, a rally,
Okay. Okay. Great.
and it was hosted. I'm sorry, by Harlem to the Heights campaign committee.
Okay, hosted. Okay, so we just want to get some clarity as to what happened, but it's great that you had an overflow of people. It's great because one of the things with Harlem Network News, a lot of times our stories are not covered, and that's why Harlem Network News exists. You know, so that we can tell our own stories, and you know, a lot of times only some shootings or something horrific that happens, but a lot of times the positive things that happen are not covered. So obviously, yesterday there was media gravity, and that's why I'm having you on today. Joshua, do you want to say a little bit more, or Shanna, in terms of what the lineup was? You know, a few of who the speakers were, and what was the sentiment and the message of the speakers?
You want to go,
Um,
Joshua?
sure. We had Assembly District Leader Corey Ortega, who's on this call. He kicked it off for us. Then we had our congressman, representing our district, the 13th Congressional District, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. We had City Council Speaker Adrian Adams. We
Okay.
had New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Governor Kathy Hochul, State Senator Jessica Ramos, City Council Member Julie Menin, and Pierna Sanchez. We also had State Assembly Member David Weprin, I believe.
Yeah, that was nice of him coming out.
And then we had
Yeah, City Council Shawn Abreu.
Shawn Abreu as well. Yeah,
Sean,
that's
okay.
Shawn Abreu's City Council District too. Can't forget him.
Shout out.
And am I missing anybody? I hope not.
That's in terms of speakers, and then we had
Right.
everyone else like mixed in there on the stage.
Right. And you had, I understand you had, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had some of the delegates from the New York area, or was it the Harlem area? And this is on another frequency, but approximately how many delegates do we have coming from this area?
Oh, that's a great.
approximately.
Wait, to the event or to DNC?
To the event, well, to DNC as well. And also if anyone, because here at Harlem Network News, we know knowledge is power. So is anyone able to just share like what is a delegate? What do you have to do to become a delegate? And what is the responsibility of a delegate at the convention? I think is very important.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Can anybody address?
I've been a delegate, so
Oh, wow.
I could answer. I was a
There you go.
delegate on 2016.
Okay.
So when during the presidential elections, we have a primary process, and when candidate wins a primary in that state, they are awarded delegates, and those delegates come to the convention. After that whole primary process, and the delegates actually, award their vote to, the nominee that they're sworn to, and the nominee has to get a certain number of delegates to actually secure the party's nomination for the presidential ticket. And to become a delegate, you can actually run for this position. It's a position that anybody can run for. There are a given number of delegate seats per congressional district. So people run for the delegate position during the same presidential primary cycle. A lot of delegates are usually elected officials who are already running for their own positions. But there are also a lot of grassroots organizers who also run for these seats. And sometimes, at-large delegates can be appointed by the campaign if they garner enough primary votes in those districts. So, and they can, appoint people, supporters or grassroots organizers in those communities as well. So those are like the two main ways to become a delegate. And overall, it's a great experience. You get to really see the presidential process up close, and be around all that energy and excitement. It's a great, opportunity for any person who's a member of the Democratic Party or just wanted to know more about presidential politics.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And I think that particularly this year, well, from the time that VP Kamala Harris was endorsed till the time, because I think they did like a virtual roll call. So we kind of knew that she had enough delegates going in. But I think that there's a lot of excitement, and on a lot of levels. I mean, this is the second time that a woman has run. It's the first time that an African-American, Asian-American person that's a woman has run. So there's a lot of excitement and a feeling of this is personal for a lot of people. I mean, I actually am a member, and I've been a member for 4 years of Win with Black Women. And we brought the 44,000 women out. We were having a normal, clap it up, snap it up. We were having
it's been a while since I did this one.
with 300 people, like we do every Sunday at 8:30. And when we got the news at 3:00, the agenda changed, which, spawned a lot of things. So I think it's great that people are getting involved. And one of the things you could say, New York, and, Corey or Joshua or Shanna, you can attest to this. We are not necessarily a battleground state, but I feel like we're a base, and we have a silent majority. And when I say that, it's a silent majority of people who are not registered, who don't vote. So if we can pull that crew together to actually vote, that'll be a powerful thing, So if anyone would like to speak to that, Shanna, you're looking very pensive. What would you like to share?
Only thing I was just gonna say, just kind of say what I said earlier, is that, you said there's a lot of people that aren't registered, but there are people that are registered who just aren't voting. So we have to tackle both, ends of the spectrum, the people who aren't voting, but who are registered, and the people who just aren't registered, and we need to get them registered, and not only just get them registered, to make sure that they actually come out to vote. So At that rally, I really believe that there was a lot of people that was motivated. If they weren't motivated, they were motivated at that rally to tell others about voting for Kamala and Tim, and to hear how the other electeds publicly support and endorse those two candidates. So, and a lot of those electeds are actually delegates, like the mayor is a delegate. So
Okay.
we didn't mention Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala, who was there, and
Yes,
she's also a
yes.
delegate. So
Okay.
we
Beautiful.
had a number of electeds who were delegates who was at our event, spoke, and was willing to cast their vote.
Okay. Okay. So,
And I want to add to that.
yes.
Like for example, my mother, she voted for the first time in her life for Obama. And given the context, my mother comes from the Dominican Republic, becomes a citizen, had to
Okay.
learn the language. Although she was bilingual, she wasn't, 1000% super fluid and like can go really fast. But she
Right.
understood. She understood, and Obama was covered on the Latino channels and on New York One and everywhere. And it was the inspiration of hope that got my mother to vote. And what
Right.
I think we're going to see a repeat here is a
Mhm.
big inspiration of hope, because we have, a mother-like figure for the first time in the United States of America. When I see Kamala Harris, I see my mother. I
Okay.
see my aunts.
Mhm.
And that is very comforting, because in my household growing up as a, Afro-Latino Dominican Harlemite, my
Mhm.
mother is the strongest thing there is. And that is not heard of. That is not uncommon within the
Right.
Latino Dominican Harlem culture.
Right.
So I'm betting the whole kit and caboodle that
Mhm.
we're all gonna have that sense of pride and hope, and we'll say, yeah, our vote matters, and
Right.
we'll have the victory.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that is one of the key things, because we're voting, and I won't say it's comfort voting, but it's a person that you can relate to. But I think the other thing that's very, very, very critical is that we have our agenda. You know what I'm saying? What is the agenda that a Harlem needs? What are some of the things that we need? And I mean, I could quote say, oh, it's the Black agenda. And that's not necessarily a racist thing, because I feel like every community has different needs. Like Chinatown's needs are different than the needs of Central Harlem are different than the needs of Hamilton Heights or Washington Heights, because the needs of the people are different, though overall, the messaging that is saying that everyone has to, have a better life, that's some of the messaging that VP Kamala Harris is saying, that we're all uplifted, but we know that there are specific differences. And that's wherein I think a lot of people have been in despair, and they feel like, well, even if I vote, like, what changed? How
Right.
is this going to change for me? So I think that in terms of getting some of those people who don't vote, there has to be some messaging for them, and for them to really see how is it going to change, and then learning to use our voice. What is our voice? What are our needs? And to push that through, because that's real. Would anybody like to speak to that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think do you want to go, Corey, or should I go?
yeah. So the great thing, and having Joshua and Shanna just coming off a campaign, their
Mhm.
policy points are very fresh. And I followed both of them because I know both of them for quite some
Okay.
time. We're pretty much going to agree on this. It's just to what degree, right? We need federal funding for mental health in
Mhm.
Harlem. That is as real as my beard is white. I have experienced mental health challenges going through, and I think Shauna, you spoke about this actually.
Right.
I think you were the first
I've
candidate.
had mental
I
health
I
issues.
felt
Right.
comfortable when I heard you speak, because I saw
Mhm.
myself, and luckily, I'm okay. You can reach out to resources and
Mhm.
health insurance. That's very helpful. But there are folk in Harlem that don't have that access.
Mhm.
And we can only depend on the federal government for that type of assistance when it's such a lift that outweighs the budget that we even have statewide. I think it's like 290 billion. New York City is, I think, over the 96 billion-dollar mark. And that's something that we have to rely on the federal. And I'm sure my colleagues here in the Democratic Party will speak to their own policy points. But when you vote, that is what you're voting for, that large scale assistance, right? We had the bailout when we went through it. What was that? 2000? I think I graduated college 2009. I think it was like one of the worst.
Yeah, 2008, 2009.
2007, excuse me. One of the worst economic depressions that we had since the Great. I think we called it the Great Recession, I think.
Yeah.
And
correct.
And we had to literally bail out banks, right? Now imagine Harlem being that. Like, yeah, bail us out because we are an institution, right? The great thing about Harlem, and shout out to our brethren and sister in Brooklyn, we both are still Mecca of Harlem, of color, communities of color, the diaspora.
Right.
And the one thing that's so unique about Harlem is like, Africa. People have to remember Africa is the continent, not the actual different countries and states. So in Harlem, you have East Harlem, right? You have Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Central Harlem, African Americans, African, anything else that is coming from the African region. West Harlem, the entrails of African Americans, and then what I like to call the Oregon Trail of the Dominican community. And throughout, we have sprinkles of Caucasian and Asian. But that's the great thing. We literally represent Latino, Puerto Rican, African American, Afro-Latino, right? And our needs are going to be very similar because it's one Harlem, right? Not to be cute. And then where we have the connection, Hamilton Heights, what I love to see, it's the bridge between Harlem and the Heights. So that's why the campaign is named so, right? Harlem to the Heights, because those are the two communities that you have here in Northern Manhattan, Harlem and the Heights. And we're learning to, build that coalition. And especially bring that to Unity Hall. And that's my 2 cents for that, and I'll kick it off to you guys.
No, that's more than 2 cents. I could say that's like 50 cents. But I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and this conversation is really spawned out of a rally to come New York for Kamala that happened this week, and I have some of the folks that helped to put the rally together. And, what you were saying, Corey, is very, very important in terms of just bringing the one Harlem together. Because I know at the event, this is Harlem Network News, so we just speak truth to power. I know that some of the Black public officials were not at the event and were feeling, maybe that they were not in the planning. So this is once again, just trying to bring the one Harlem together. I know that there was an event about 10 days ago that was Harlem Women for Harrist. It took place at the Harriet Tubman statue, and about 300 people came out with that. And some of the public officials are Cordell Clear and, Inez Dickens were involved with doing that. But at the end of the day, I think that from any standpoint, I'm a Harlemite. I raised my children here. I grew up in Queens, but I've lived in Harlem all my adult life. My parents were on that migration from the South, and they grew up in Harlem. So I think it's very, very, my kids went to school in East Harlem, though we lived up in the beginning of the Heights. But I think it's very, very, very important that we figure out how to pull us all together, because that's going to be critical. That is going to be the key thing. Unity in the community, one Harlem. And I'm speaking, but we have some things that we have to work on, because like you said, the community is so diverse, where you've got a pocket of the Black Americans, you know, Caribbean mix in Central Harlem primarily. And then, you know, there's the African from the diaspora. And then, you know, as you move up, there's the Dominican, and it can be Afro-Dominican, you know, and what we must, and then there are language differences, you know, because a lot of the Africans from the diaspora are Francophone speaking, you know, so we have some language things. And I know that even within and I don't know what's the correct thing, I'll say the Spanish speaking community, there's even language differences with that, you know, because the Mexicans, the way they may speak is one thing, the Puerto Rican, another, the Dominican, another.
Yeah, there's different dialects.
Yeah, there's different dialects and nuances. So as we're all facing the same challenges, and one of the things, because I also you know, work as an educator, you know, and I understand, you know, from history that in the transatlantic slave trade, actually more people were dropped off in South America than in North America. And then there was the pockets that were dropped in Central America. So it's nothing is a straightforward thing in terms of who we are, but we've got to band together, you know, and that we've got to figure out, because that's where the strength is. So if
the
anyone,
United States, right? Get it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this event really embodied the unity of the Democratic Party, right? You know, I think when Kamala Harris appointed Tim Walz, you know, to be her running mate, she really, you know, she made a pick that many on the left wanted her to make, but many pundits did not expect her to make. And she really brought together both wings of the Democratic Party in a way that we have not seen in a long time, right? And that's really energized this energy that's around her campaign right now, right? And so our event, you know, we invited everyone. No one was excluded, but you know, obviously we understand that, you know, other groups may be planning other events, or they may have had you know, conflicts where they, you know, weren't able to attend. And, you know, but I know that, you know, they were with us in spirit. And, you know, our community, our Harlem community was, you know, fully represented at this event, you know, across every generation. We had our young leaders, we had our elders there, fully in support of the Kamala and Walz ticket. And we just want to take that energy and continue to build on it. And I think, you know, one of the important messages that was given by a number of the speakers at the event was that, you know, although New York is not a battleground state, we do have battleground districts, right? Congressional districts, right? So we really need to make sure that we're focusing on our efforts there, right? And helping to flip some of these red seats in Congress in New York State. And Kamala Harris is in the White House, that we actually have a Democratic majority, not only in the United States Senate, but in the United States House of Representatives, so that she can actually enact the policies in her agenda that are actually going to uplift and benefit our community, right? That's incredibly important, because the president of the United States can do very little if they can't pass legislation through Congress, right? So I think the overall message was, you know, there was a room full of people, you know, from diverse backgrounds, diverse political ideologies, right? People who have campaigned against each other in the past, people who have primaried each other, right? But none of that matters now, right? We've got to put all that aside and really come together and unite for the common good, right? We got to make sure that we defeat Trump, that we protect the sanctity of our democracy in this country, and elect leaders like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz that are going to fight tooth and nail to enact the agenda that's really going to truly uplift the Harlem community, right? So that's what the event was about. That was the spirit that I feel everybody left with.
Right.
And those who couldn't attend, I'm sure they were with us in spirit. And, you know, we look forward to hopefully having them at one of our future events.
Okay.
And I just want to say that I'm excited to vote for her because not only is she a Black woman and not only does she attend an HBCU, but she
All right.
also is my sorority sister of
Okay, I
Alpha
knew that
Kappa
was coming.
Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I definitely will be supporting her and making sure we get out the word for people to go and get registered and not only get registered to vote, but to actually vote.
Okay, I think that's very important. And thank you for sharing, Josh, just in terms of pulling everybody together. This was the first event that you all had, the Harlem Women for Harris. That was the first event that was had. So we know what that feels like. So whenever the next events that happen across the board, let's have all of our public officials come together, meet, make decisions, make plans, because unity in the community. And that's what we're going to need. We cannot have one faction here, one faction there. And like you said, I mean, it's people have different opinions. People are sitting in different seats. There are people who are sitting in seats that must be revered. Our mayor is someone who we must, the speaker, our congressmen, our council people, everyone has different reverence. But at this point, we got to shoulder to shoulder. You know what I'm saying? In terms of everyone going for one force.
Yes.
In a family, everybody doesn't get along all the time, but this is something where we've got to really go for one force. And I'm going to wrap up this interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And like I said, I am just elated because I am going to the convention. I have, my press credentials. I'm in the building, and I'm also going to be attending a lot of the Win with Black Women events that are going to be happening in the McCormick Center, and just bringing the information. But I also had put out a survey. I also need people to donate whatever you can. We got a GoFundMe going on. We have Zelle, Cash App. We have all of that, Harlem Network News, because we need to get there and we need to cover the convention effectively. And things are moving so fast. I don't know if campaign funds are funneling up or down or to the Black media.
And it's the link so we
I
can.
will. Yes, I absolutely will. I absolutely will, because it's just very important. But I'd like to end this conversation, and I'm sure it's the first of many. And I just want to put it out there from Harlem Network News. We want to bring Kamala to Harlem. We want her to come here. And I think the magnitude of Harlem, I don't care where you go in the world. I don't care what language people speak. When you say Harlem, they know what that is. And now, just because of TV shows and stuff, when you say the Heights, they know what that is too. So that's like a media event with her just coming here. And we know Obama came to the Apollo, and we know we have churches like the Abyssinian Baptist Church, plug, of which I'm a member, but that's begot our first congressman, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. So there's a lot that could resonate around the world. And I also think with her coming, and this is just a message in my opinion, that some of the voters that feel that they have been looked over would feel like, oh, she's here, she knows, she cares, she sees what we're dealing with, and I think that that's very important. And I always say Harlem and Harlems of the world, because all of these cities, be it Brooklyn, be it Chicago, be it Memphis, a lot of the places are dealing with the same thing we're dealing with. And we can't even get into a conversation about, and this is just a word because I don't say that, the people who's being called asylum seekers, we can't even get into that circumstance, in terms of what it is, and what they're dealing with and what we're dealing with. you know, yeah. So I have a survey, I put it out, but I would like each of you to just say two things that you think are what we need from a vice president, soon to be president, Kamala Harris, and our VP, Tim Walsh. What does Harlem need? Harlem, the Heights, what do we need? What is our ask? Because we've got to put that together.
So I'm gonna go with infrastructure. So we get more funding for the East Harlem subway line. And I'll pivot to something because my background is housing, funding for affordable housing. And something you said, you said we have to bring Harris to Harlem. And yeah, I'm gonna reach out to the congressman. I'll reach out to County Leader Keith Wright so we can,
Okay.
organize those conversations and make an effort. So that great idea.
Okay. Thank
So
you. Shanna?
I'm gonna say, because my biggest thing that I'm most passionate about is mental health, and Corey touched on it. So I'm just gonna say more mental health resources, because I know a lot of times people are always saying housing is the number one issue, and it is an issue, but to me, the number one issue is mental health, especially in our district of Harlem. So we need more mental health resources. So definitely that's what we'll be pushing. And also our small mom and pop businesses who've been in business forever. A lot of them during COVID time closed and weren't able to get the necessary funding they needed to stay open. So we need to make sure that we look out for our small mom and pop businesses. So that's what our community needs.
Okay. And Joshua?
Well, first off, I'm really excited about the actions that Vice President Kamala Harris is already trying to take in addressing price gouging. The incomes of American citizens have stagnated, but prices for everything is increasing, especially in our cities, right? So in terms of, just overall affordability, it's very important that, we hold some of these corporations who are engaging in price gouging accountable to make sure that goods and services stay affordable for our families. I would be remiss if I didn't mention affordable housing. We need more affordable housing. We need more funding for affordable housing. We need more funding for our Section 8 programs nationwide. We need more funding going to NYCHA to really restore, rehabilitate, and reinvigorate our public housing.
Yes.
And on top of that, we also need to make sure that we pass the bill that's in the Senate right now to restrict private equity companies from buying single family homes, which is, partly responsible for the skyrocketing costs of the price surge for housing, for people looking to buy a home in this country right now, right? Because regular everyday folks now have to compete with hedge funds and private equities just to buy a home for their families, right? So that's really driving up cost of housing in America right now. So I'm looking forward to, our next president, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, to really address those needs for our community moving forward.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And I'm going to do four things because I'm going last and I'm the host. So I'm grabbing the mic. I would say that, and this touches a lot of things, but economic infusion in our communities. Economics. We need money. In our community, we have the educated poor. People are working, and because the cost of living and housing and everything in New York City proper is so high, economics is key. And as you said, Slash, that has to do with small businesses. This is, we're in the middle of Harlem Week, which is really Harlem Month. And I was at a great event that Harlem Week and the Greater Harlem Chamber had tonight at Chase Bank. And I'm going to air some of the clips from that, but there was a lot of information and support in terms of like getting your credit together for your business. And, Chase was there, but Carver Bank was there that was talking about the need for more Black banks and, just for people to get it together. So that was really helpful. I'm looking for home ownership because we know that leads to generational wealth. So how we can become part of the home ownership and how there can be more home ownership in the country, because, you know, in the 50s or whatever, it was most people could own a home, just regular working people could own a home. That has changed. So we've got to look at that. And key for me is education. Okay, I have done a lot of work right in Central Harlem in District 5, and I will say that we have separate but not equal education going on. When that law passed 70 years ago, I was somebody in Queens who literally was part of the busing. But I'm seeing here that we have separate but not equal education going on. And that really has to change. And then I will say my fourth one, which I know I've been going, speaking for reparations. And I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but I know that a community like our Harlem and our Harlem Heights, you know, there are definite disparities here. And I feel like some form of reparations would take care of that. You know, we know that when it was COVID, everybody got $1,200, or they've added something if you have how many kids or whatever it is. But we need some kind of infusion. We probably need everybody that's below a certain income to have their student loan totally wiped out, you know, because we have people that owe $200,000 in student loans and they're not a doctor, you know. So these are okay. You know, I was doing, yeah, they're not a doctor. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we got to look at, because that's a chain around your neck, like a credit card at 25%, that you probably won't pay off in a lifetime. And it's impacting the quality of life. So I say, for whatever, backward never, in the words of Marcus Messiah Garvey. I say, in the words of James Baldwin, who just celebrated the 100th birthday, so goes Harlem, so goes the world. And I will claim it from Lloyd Williams from the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, that said Harlem is a state of mind. So we can look at it like that. So thank you very much. And just to close, one of you just give a closing statement and tell us what's next. And thank you.
Closing statement. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Harlem. Thank you, Washington Heights. Thank you, New York City, Kings County, Queens County, Richmond County, UFT. Thank you, everyone, for making this event, you know, I would say a historic event for us, because Hamilton Heights has never seen that much representation from the Democratic Party in the 40 years that I've been alive. Maybe when Carlos Cook was around, maybe, but I wasn't around for that. So I'm gonna say,
okay, you know your history.
That gets down, you know, Harlem, built different in Harlem. And then, yeah, no, that's about it. Just goodbye. Oh, what's
And
next?
tell your Instagram too, so people can know how to follow you for previous events that's coming up. So they could, you know, Joshua, tell your Instagram, you know,
Yeah.
tell all, you know.
I'm the person. I'm Twitter.
Oh,
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
Okay, tell your
Okay.
Twitter.
Okay.
Mr. Ortega NY. Next steps are buses, phone banks. We're going
Okay.
back to basics.
Say that again, just so people get it.
Yes, ma'am. Next steps are buses to congressional districts and to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we're going to do phone banks. It's basically old school campaigning, just boots on the ground. If you can't knock on doors, you can make a phone call. If you don't have a cell phone, write a letter. If you can't write a letter, make a poster. You can't make a poster, light a candle. Everyone can do something. And the next steps are buses, phone banks, and then eventually we'll all get ready for the debate between the presidential candidates.
Okay. And what's your Twitter again? I'm sorry. Or
Uh,
your X?
yeah, right. I'm gonna call it Twitter.
Yeah, people are confused.
It's Mr. Ortega NY.
Mr. Ortega NY. Okay. All right. Thank you. And Shanna?
Just just my handle if people wanted to stay in touch is Harmongoff, the number 4 NY. So Harmongoff, HARMONGOFF, the number 4 NY on Instagram.
Okay, NY, and you're on Instagram. And Joshua, any closing statements?
Yeah, closing statements. Yeah, we're just gearing up for November. Let's get out to vote. Let's help register people to vote. Let's make some calls, some battleground states, get on the bus if you can. We just gotta, make sure that we defeat Trump and save our democracy. If you guys want to follow me, I'm on all social media at Joshua Clennon, on X, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the whole 9 yards.
And thank you so much, Miss Terri, for having us on your show.
Right.
We
Yeah,
greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of you. And I'm the media person, and from when I went to journalism school, my first book was that I read was Is the Medium the Message? And I always say, is the medium the message, or is the message the media? And that's a book by Marshall McLuhan, and that's where it started. So I think it's just really critical. I want to put the prayers out. I want to put the reaches out so that all of our communities, our public officials, our citizens, all the different communities, whatever language they're speaking, whatever their needs are, that we come together, because our congressional district is a very diverse congressional district. We got Central Harlem, we got the Heights, and we have part of the Bronx.
Yes.
We got part of the Bronx. And so that's a difficult district to manage, because even within the district, there's different needs within the district, and then there's different languages within the district. So, but that's what our district is, whether it happened from gerrymandering or whatever, but that's what our district is. So we've got to come together, we got to hold hands, we got to be strong, and we got to reach out to one another and assure that everyone feels validated. It's very, very important.
That's right.
In our community, because, in so many instances, because we have been so disfranchised, and, just as they speak, whatever is in the gene pool, we have the residue of whatever we have gone through, whether it's coming across the water or coming through whatever, we have that. And that's part of our, part of the DNA, and that can even contribute, as you all are speaking about the mental health thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the stress factor, even in terms of what we're experiencing with the birth rates and incarcerations. I mean, I didn't even touch on that, but yeah. So we got a lot going on, but I thank you all. Continue to do the great work, and whatever Harlem Network News can do, to keep it going. And like I said, I noted what the things are that are your needs, and definitely, television is a receiver and a sender. So as a media person, I'm going to that convention, and I'm going to send what the community needs, and I'm going to receive what's going on at the convention. So I'm hopeful, and I'm prayerful.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Okay, all right. Bye-bye. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Miss Terri.
Thank you. Thank you, Shanna. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you.